Hi, I'm Diane Hullett, and welcome to the Best Life, Best Death podcast. I'm excited today to be joined by a special guest, Julie McFadden. You can find her at Hospice Nurse Julie on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Diane. Thank you for that amazing intro.
Well, I learned about Julie because articles started showing up about the work she was doing. And I really valued it because I think what Julie's trying to bring to these new social media platforms is really a conversation. And of course, that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I think once the articles hit, it seemed like it hit a broader scale of people. So it's been crazy, but it's been really good. And that's like my main thing is I just wanted to get the conversation started about death and dying and having it hit a little more mainstream. So it was exciting. It's just been exciting.
It's been an
And
exciting couple of weeks. Well,
yeah.
back up, totally back up, and tell us so Julie's a hospice nurse and she has conversations and puts tips up on social media. But how did you get into the work that you're doing?
Well, I've been a nurse for about 14 years. I kind of lose track, but I think it's 14 around there. And I was an ICU nurse for most of my career. So because of that, so just a side note, I was gung ho after nursing school about being a nurse. I mean, I think most nurses are. They're excited, they want the best thing, and they can't wait to learn. And that was me. And I got an ICU job. I moved away from my hometown, and I got this ICU job at this big hospital, and I was really proud of that. And 2 years into that job, I was like soul crushed and defeated and burnt out. Sorry, that was my computer, I think. Burnt out and just really jaded with being a nurse and healthcare. And I was like, this can't be why I'm, for some reason, right? I'm not saying every ICU nurse would feel this way, but I know I did. And I'm glad I started there, and I stayed way too long. I stayed for another, I was there 9 years, and I moved around a lot of different facilities. I did travel nursing. I had tried different things. But my whole point is I didn't feel how I feel now about nursing. It was like I made the wrong decision. I'm not supposed to be a nurse. And all because, at least for me in the ICU, it felt very like you need to care, obviously, about humans, but you need to hurry up. Like there's no, you can't take the time to talk to the families or the patient about what's truly happening to them. The bigger picture. Are they really going to survive this? Are they really going to get out of here? If they do get out of here, what's their life going to look like? And I felt like if they truly knew what we were saying as healthcare workers to each other about what their future held, they probably would make a different choice. I think they would have been like, wait, what? I'm not going to live this isn't going to help me live for another however 20 years. And this isn't for everybody, but there's a lot of people that I felt like we did a disservice to because we weren't fully honest about the end goal, which was likely death.
Right,
And if that
right.
was
We're
death,
kind of in the medical thing of speed and
yes,
delivery
speed
and
and what's the
sources and
creatinine and
staying.
what's the yes.
Mhm.
It was like we were and in the ICU, you're super detailed. And I get it because you're trying to keep people alive, so what's the urine output every hour? What's their lab work every other hour? So it was very like, and families would focus on that because we're telling them these things instead of focusing on the bigger picture of if you knew your loved one was going to die in 3 months, most likely, do you want them to be here or do you want them to be at home dying with you peacefully and spending their last few months with you, not worrying about what their creatinine level is and what their urine output is and being in a hospital bed, right? So anyway, so that made me, I saw this happening over the years, and I think that slowly kind of killed me. um, and it made me passionate about death and dying and trying to learn how to talk about that. And there are a few really good attendings that would do that, right? And they'd be here for 2 weeks and then they'd leave and another one would come. So during those 2 weeks, I would like soak up everything they would be saying, and I'd be thinking, this is what we need. This is what I want to do. I want to talk to people about the truth of the matter, which is a really hard thing to say, but it's the truth and people need to know. Anyway, so that's how I got into, eventually I got my first hospice job once I moved to California. And at that job, I had this amazing attending hospice doctor that we would do face-to-faces together, meaning her and I would visit the patients together, and I would hear her have these hard conversations. And like basically everything I regurgitate on my videos is like stuff I've learned from her. She's just so amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, and now I'm a nurse that loves her job. I never thought I could. I have a really good work-life balance, and I love what I do. I really feel like I'm one of those people that even if I had millions of dollars, I still would maybe not do it 40 hours a week, but but I still would do it. I
Yeah.
still would do it because I
Yeah.
really like it. It's like I found where I fit.
Wow. So you sort of were able to transition from this high intensity, non satisfying aspect of nursing into something that really suited you. And I'm always struck by that. I feel like I know so many nurses and they all work in really different aspects of nursing. And that's such a cool thing about nursing to me, that there's such a range.
Yeah, I know. I always try to tell nurses, if you're not, I think it's really easy to kind of get stuck in this place of like, I've been here for a bunch of years, so I'm just going to stick it out. I'm so glad I didn't do that to myself. I'm so glad I left, because for a while it was hard. I tried. I was an ICU nurse most of the time, but intermittently I would do pre-op or post-op. I would try different things and nothing was fitting. So I started being like, it must be me, you know?
Right.
So I would always encourage nurses who are unsatisfied with what they're doing before they just say, I hate nursing altogether, or I would really try. I mean, you're a nurse, you're needed everywhere. There's so many different kinds of nursing. Try to be, I think it takes bravery, because I felt scared moving around, but I'm really glad I did, because I made it work for me.
Yeah, made it work for you and made a difference in all these families you work with now. So now you've been a hospice nurse for like
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
And then something inspired you to start putting up these short videos, these warm, charming, truthful videos on TikTok and Instagram about end of life. So, how did that come about?
Yeah, it's been in the works for a while, just in my head, I mean. And I'm kind of like you, was like, do I start a podcast? Like, how do I get this information out there? Because I would help my friends and family with their dying relatives or a friend of a friend, and I'd be talking to them about things I would know, and all their reactions would be, I wish I would have known this before. Wow, I can't believe X, Y, and Z. This is amazing. You should really tell people about this. And I forget that like this isn't common knowledge and people
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
seek out this information. So yeah, I was going to start a podcast, and then I was like, this is really hard and a lot of work. And I don't know how to edit these things. So went home to see my nieces, who are like tween ages, and they were on TikTok. And initially, of course, everyone makes fun of you. Like, it's hard not to make fun of TikTok, because you're like, this is so stupid. Everyone's doing dances. What's the point of this? I felt like an old lady. But the more I watched it, the more I was like, you found really great creators. I was like, this is kind of cool. So I made a few videos. I was like, I'm just gonna try this. I literally made probably 10 videos. I put out 3 a day for like 3 or 4 days. And by the fourth day, because I looked back, by the fourth day, one of the videos took off. And it's been kind of like that ever since. And
It's
then
kind of nuts. I mean, Julie and I just looked it up this morning. She's made 226 posts on Instagram, and on Instagram she has 31,000 viewers.
yeah,
And on TikTok, you have 480,000 viewers. So,
yeah,
a lot of people are seeing this information. And I love it too, because I think I'm not on TikTok at this point, because I think of it as sort of like, oh, that's something that people under 15 do. But
yes,
I doesn't seem like it. You've really brought it to this whole other audience that way.
yeah. I am just as surprised as anyone else. It's funny, my niece, who's 12, uh, put up her own TikTok that was like, just my aunt is viral on TikTok, but it's mostly old people and adults who watch her. So so I'm still not cool in her eyes. But yeah, I think there's a whole population of people out there that are not teenagers. Although teenagers, I think, can watch my stuff if they want to. Like, I think that's the problem, is people think like, oh, kids can't listen. It's like, I think we can. I think we can educate children as well. I mean, probably it's like a little more sensitive, but in general, I'm okay with. I'm not saying anything that's too outrageous that I think people can't listen.
Absolutely. Well, I think it used to be more common knowledge. There was a great line. I was reading A Beginner's Guide to the End. I don't have the author right in front of me, but a wonderful book called A Beginner's Guide to the End. And the authors make the comment, wouldn't it be great if in addition to sex ed and driver's ed in high school, we also had death ed? So
Yes.
I sort of like that. I thought that was a great idea. Probably not going to happen anytime soon, but
And
what,
so,
why do you think this has struck such a chord in these last few months?
I was hoping it would. I wasn't sure if it would, because even my own parents are like, I don't want to hear you talk about this. Um, so I wasn't sure, but it seems like it has. And I think it's because everyone will die, including myself, right? It's not like I'm not going to either. And I think it strikes everybody. It hits everybody. This happens to everybody. So if you're not dead yet, you've taken care of someone dying, or you've experienced this. I get a lot of people who've had really what they think is a bad experience, right? And who have watched my videos and then written to me and said, when you explained what happened and how it's all normal, I realized my grandpa didn't have a bad death. That was everything I saw him doing. I didn't know was a normal part of death and dying. So I think it just hits us. It hits everybody, right? So people, for some reason now, are willing to listen, and maybe they would have before too. I don't know. I just started this 6 months ago, but
I'll be
it hits.
so curious where it goes in 6 months. I think there's something so powerful about what you just said. It's like, how do we normalize our past experiences with death and understand, how to fit them into a framework of, was that good for the dying person? Was it hard for the dying person? What about for me, the experiencer who's still alive? So kind of framework on past deaths, and then also framework on current, like sitting with friends who are ill, or older relatives who are dying, or younger relatives or friends who are dying. How do we put a framework on that? I
Yeah.
just heard a powerful story. A friend was telling me this morning that a friend of hers, the father was about to make a decision to have some complicated procedures and end up in a rehab home. And somebody went and talked to him and said, do you really want to do this? Or do you just want to go home and be with your family? And instead of the complicated procedures that may or may not have prolonged his life, but certainly would have ended him up in a facility, he decided to go home. And he's lived for 3 more months in this very loving community of family and friends. And what a great ending. But it took that truth telling.
Yes, that just gave me chills, because it's like that healthcare worker, whoever it was, just to me just made a huge difference in that man's life,
And
because
the
we were
life of
willing to
his
have a
son.
difficult conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And the life of his son who's there with him, and the
Yes.
life of this little happens to be a little mountain town in Boulder that have kind of rallied around this gentleman. So yeah. Well, you've already kind of said this, but why do you think it's important to have conversations about the end of life and death?
So that's actually okay. So it was the number one reason why I wanted to start. Not TikTok, but something, it happened to be TikTok, is because what I've seen, one, to educate, right? Like true education about death and dying. But the biggest thing was, the more I saw, like this is the main thing I see in a pattern of all of my patients. The people who are willing to have hard conversations, admit that they're dying, like say the word, like when I die, and families who are around them and also willing to talk about it. They seem to have a better life before they die, and a more peaceful death. There is something about this, like, willingness to talk about it, and acceptance of the inevitable, which will ebb and flow on day to day, different times. I'm not saying you're just going to have acceptance and then forever feel acceptance. You're going to have bad days too. But like the people that I saw who were willing to do that had such a better ending of their life, and a more peaceful death. And then people who weren't, it's like issue after issue, pain after pain, existential problems, actual physical problems, and not a peaceful death. And that's not like, I am generalizing, but
Mhm.
it's enough that I've felt like I need to tell people about this.
Yeah.
And people need to start being willing to listen to about what death may look like for them. and and the more you're willing, the more open you are, it seems like the better you live and the more peaceful you die. Um, for the most part, every once in a while, there's things where you're like, damn, you want it to be easier, but it's not always that easy. But a lot of times it is. And I
Yeah.
want people to know that.
Yep. Yep. And it takes the conversation. I think the having those conversations, and a big theme that's come up in these podcast conversations I've had with people recently is also the theme of having those conversations before you think you need to have the conversation. Like
Yes.
when you need to have the conversation, it's maybe too late to have the conversation. So
Yes.
that's a whole element of this.
The
Well,
whole like, oh, I'll take care of that later. It's like, nope, nope,
yeah,
that's now. The
maybe
later's now.
maybe
Here we are.
today is the day or this week. And I think these things are so, it's one of the things I love about the best 3 months courses that I teach, because people come out with these really specific action steps. And that takes it out of this theoretical place of like, oh, I should, and I ought to, and I know I should think about that stuff, and gets it really concrete, which I think is so amazing. Well, thank you so much, Julie. I'm so delighted, and I can't wait to see where all your social media and website and other pieces go, because I really feel like you and I are kind of walking in the shadow of some great hospice people like Barbara Carnes,
Yes.
incredible end of life people who have touched so many through their work. And, we're just kind of the next generation coming forward, or in our case, the next generation, and then the next generation, because you're younger than me. But
Yeah, we're all
it's a
in this
piece,
together.
we're all in
We're
this
all in this
together.
together.
Yeah, I think creating conversations. Well, wonderful. Tell me something you're grateful for today.
Oh my gosh, so many things. Health. I don't say that blase. Like I do a gratitude list every night, and on my list every night is health, because you do take it for granted. It's very easy to just take for granted that we can walk and talk and eat and do all the things. So health, having these conversations with you. And today I'm going to get out. It's sunshine. It's sunny and warm-ish here. And I'm going to see some friends. It's just the day-to-day stuff that makes me, live in the present and be grateful for that.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Julie. You can find out more about Julie at Hospice Nurse Julie. You can find out more about the work that I do at bestlifebestdeath.com. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too, Diane.